In 1989, when Jacob Wetterling was abducted, there was no way for parents to know if a convicted sex offender lived next door. No database, no notification system, no registry. Danny Heinrich had abducted and sexually assaulted another boy just 9 months before taking Jacob. But because no system tracked him, no one knew. No one could protect their children. Jacob's mother, Patty, spent 27 years fighting to create the tool that could have saved her son. If you're fascinated by true crime mysteries like this, please hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments what you think about this case. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest investigations. Today, every state has a sex offender registry. Every parent can search their neighborhood. Every community can protect its children. But in 1989, that system didn't exist. An 11-year-old Jacob Wetterling paid the price. October 22, 1989. St. Joseph, Minnesota. Population 4,000. The kind of small town where neighbors knew each other's names and kids rode bikes until dark without worry. Where parents let their children walk to the local video store on a Sunday evening without fear. Jacob Wetterling, 11. His younger brother Trevor, 10, and their friend Aaron Larson, 11, had permission to rent a video after dinner. They pedaled their bikes the mile and a half to Tom Thumb convenience store, browsing the small selection of VHS tapes. Jacob was responsible, mature for his age. His parents Jerry and Patty trusted him to watch over Trevor. The boys had made this trip dozens of times. Around 9 p.m., they selected their movie and began the ride home. It was dark, but the route was familiar. A quiet rural road with farms and scattered houses. Safe territory. They never imagined someone was waiting. The boys were about halfway home, pedaling along a gravel driveway that connected to their street, when a voice cut through the darkness. "Stop." A man stepped into their path. He wore a mask and held a gun. Trevor would later remember every detail with painful clarity. The man's voice, the cold metal of the gun, the exact words spoken. The masked man ordered the boys off their bikes, made them lie face down on the cold gravel, asked each one his age. "Trevor, I'm 10. Aaron, I'm 11. Jacob, I'm 11. The man pointed the gun at Trevor and Aaron. "Run into the woods and don't look back. If you look back, I'll shoot." The two younger boys ran, terror propelling them forward into the darkness of the trees. But they did look back. They couldn't help it. They saw the man leading Jacob away. Jacob's blonde hair visible in the dim light, walking into the darkness, then gone. Trevor and Aaron ran home as fast as their legs could carry them, burst into the Wetterling house, screaming. Jerry and Patty couldn't process what they were hearing. Their son had been taken, at gunpoint, minutes ago. By 9:32 p.m., police were on the scene. But Jacob had vanished. Within hours, the Stearns County Sheriff's Office mobilized the largest search operation in Minnesota history. Volunteers combed through woods and fields. Helicopters swept the area with searchlights. Bloodhounds tracked scents. But Jacob was gone without a trace. FBI Special Agent Al Garber took charge of the federal investigation. The case fit the profile of a predatory abduction. A stranger with a weapon taking a child in a planned, deliberate act. Agent Garber began building a suspect list. He reviewed recent crimes in the area. Any reports of suspicious behavior near children. Any registered sex offenders in the region. That's when he discovered something that would haunt the investigation for decades. 9 months earlier, on January 13, 1989, a 12-year-old boy named Jared Skierl had been abducted in nearby Cold Spring, Minnesota. A masked man had grabbed him, driven him to a remote location, and sexually assaulted him. Jared had survived and provided detailed information to police. The description matched the man who took Jacob. Same build, same voice, same deliberate, planned approach. Police had investigated. They'd even questioned a local man named Danny Heinrich, who lived near where Jared was abducted. But they couldn't prove anything. No physical evidence linked Heinrich to the crime. So Danny Heinrich went free. And 9 months later, Jacob Wetterling disappeared. Patty Wetterling faced every parent's worst nightmare. Not knowing, not having answers, living in a state of suspended grief, unable to mourn but unable to hope. She kept Jacob's bedroom exactly as he'd left it. His blue bedspread, his sports posters on the wall, his homework still on his desk, waiting for him to come home. But as weeks became months, Patty realized waiting wasn't enough. She needed to act. The investigation into Jacob's case had exposed a terrifying reality. America had no system for tracking sex offenders after they were released from prison. Convicted predators could move freely. No requirement to register their location. No notification to communities. No way for parents to protect their children from known threats. Danny Heinrich had been questioned about Jared's assault, then released. Then 9 months later, positioned to take another child. The system had failed. Patty threw herself into advocacy. She testified before Congress. She met with legislators. She shared Jacob's story with anyone who would listen. "If I had known there was a sex offender in our area, I would have made different choices," she told lawmakers. "I would have driven my children to the video store. I would have kept them closer. But I had no way to know." Her message was simple but powerful. Parents deserve information to protect their children. In 1994, Congress passed the Jacob Wetterling Crimes Against Children and Sexually Violent Offender Registration Act. For the first time in American history, convicted sex offenders were required to register with local law enforcement. States had to create databases tracking where offenders lived. The information had to be updated when offenders moved. It wasn't perfect. The registries weren't public yet. Parents still couldn't easily access the information. But it was a start. 2 years later, in 1996, 7-year-old Megan Kanka was murdered by a convicted sex offender who lived across the street from her family in New Jersey. Her parents had no idea of his history. The tragedy led to Megan's Law, which amended the Jacob Wetterling Act. Now the registry information had to be made public. Communities could know who lived among them. By 2006, every state had implemented some form of public sex offender registry. Parents could go online and search their neighborhood, see photos, addresses, and conviction details of registered offenders. The tool Patty wished had existed in 1989 was now available to every parent in America. But Jacob was still missing. If this case is keeping you on the edge of your seat, please give this video a like and let us know what you think happened to Jacob. Your engagement helps us bring more of these important stories to light. The investigation into Jacob's disappearance never stopped. Detective leads were followed. Suspects were questioned. Technology evolved, offering new investigative tools. But years passed without breakthrough. The case went cold. Patty continued her advocacy work, but the not knowing ate at her soul. Was Jacob alive? Was he suffering? Had he been killed quickly? The questions were torture. She spoke with other families of missing children. She learned that the hardest part wasn't the initial trauma. It was the endless uncertainty, the inability to grieve properly, the frozen state of hope mixed with dread. In 2010, advances in DNA technology prompted investigators to re-examine old evidence. They re-interviewed witnesses from 1989, reanalyzed the Jared Skierl assault case. The connections to Danny Heinrich remained strong. Same area, same time period, same victim profile, but still no physical evidence. Then in 2015, a break. Federal investigators searching Danny Heinrich's home for unrelated child pornography charges discovered something that would finally crack the case. On August 28, 2016, Danny Heinrich stood before U.S. District Judge John Tunheim. As part of a plea agreement on child pornography charges, Heinrich had agreed to provide a full confession about Jacob Wetterling. What he revealed would finally give the Wetterling family answers after 27 years. On October 22, 1989, Danny Heinrich had been driving around St. Joseph looking for a victim. He saw 3 boys on bikes. He parked his car and waited on the gravel driveway, wearing a mask. He took Jacob at gunpoint, forced him into his car, drove him to a remote field. Heinrich sexually assaulted Jacob. Then, panicking when Jacob threatened to tell police, Heinrich shot him. The 11-year-old boy died quickly. Heinrich buried Jacob's body in a field near Paynesville, Minnesota. 27 years later, he led investigators to the remains. On September 3, 2016, Jerry and Patty Wetterling finally learned the truth they dreaded. Their son had died that night in 1989. He hadn't suffered for years, but he was never coming home. Danny Heinrich received a 20-year federal sentence for child pornography. He could not be charged with Jacob's murder. The statute of limitations had expired, and the plea agreement granted him immunity in exchange for the confession. Many saw this as justice denied, but Patty Wetterling saw it differently. "We have our answer," she said at a press conference. "Jacob is no longer missing. He's at peace. And because of him, millions of children are safer." The impact of the Jacob Wetterling Act is impossible to overstate. Today, over 900,000 registered sex offenders are tracked in the United States. Every parent can access this information with a simple online search. Law enforcement can monitor where offenders live and work. Communities receive notifications when offenders move into their neighborhoods. Schools can check if registered offenders live near playgrounds or bus stops. The system isn't perfect. Some argue the registries are too broad, including minor offenses alongside violent crimes. Others say the information should be even more accessible. But no one disputes that the tool exists because Patty Wetterling refused to accept that her son's death was meaningless. She took the worst moment of her life and transformed it into protection for millions of families. She made sure that what happened to Jacob, a predator moving freely with no oversight, could never happen the same way again. After Jacob's remains were found and identified, Patty finally changed his bedroom. 27 years of waiting ended. She donated his clothes to charity, took down the posters, removed the homework from his desk. But she kept one thing: Jacob's blue bedspread, the one he'd slept under the night before he disappeared. A reminder of the ordinary evening that preceded an extraordinary tragedy. Today, the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center in Minnesota continues the work Patty started. It provides resources for families of missing children. It trains law enforcement on child abduction cases. It advocates for stronger protections. Every time a parent searches a sex offender registry, they're using a tool that exists because Patty Wetterling fought for 27 years to create it. Every time law enforcement tracks a registered offender, they're using a system built on Jacob's memory. Every time a community receives notification of a sex offender moving into the neighborhood, it's because one mother refused to let her son's death be in vain. Danny Heinrich took Jacob's life on October 22, 1989. But he couldn't take Jacob's legacy. The registry that didn't exist in 1989 now protects millions. The oversight that failed Jacob now monitors hundreds of thousands of offenders. The information that could have saved one boy now safeguards countless others. Jacob Wetterling never came home, but his impact reaches every home in America. Jacob's story reminds us that even the darkest tragedies can create light that protects others. If this case moved you, please subscribe to our channel for more stories where families turned loss into lasting change. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and don't forget to like this video to help us reach more people with these important stories. Viewer discretion was advised for this content covering child abduction and murder. All case information is sourced from official police reports, FBI documentation, and court records. Visual recreations are AI generated for educational purposes only.